Clarity isn't just a helpful trait, it's the foundation of all progress. Without clarity, we drift. With clarity, we drive. That's the difference between those who merely exist and those who create impact. Success in any area of life, whether it's business, health, relationships, or personal growth, always starts with a clear vision. If you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter how fast you're moving, you're lost. Planning your week gives you that clarity. It's the act of deliberately creating direction in a world that thrives on distraction. Most people wake up and ask, what do I need to do today? That single question reveals everything. It means they're entering the day without a defined purpose. They're not leading the day, they're being led by it. The emails, the phone calls, the notifications, the meetings, they become prisoners of the urgent instead of creators of the important. When you plan your week in advance, you break that pattern. You stop reacting and start commanding. That shift from reactive to proactive living is where power lies, because clarity gives you the power to choose what matters most. Planning forces you to sit down with your thoughts and confront them. What do I really want to achieve this week? What are the outcomes I need? Not just tasks, not just to-do lists, outcomes. There's a huge difference between being busy and being effective. A person can fill every hour with activity and still accomplish nothing meaningful. But when you begin your week with intentional clarity, knowing exactly what you're after, you no longer chase random tasks. You pursue impact. Clarity brings priorities into sharp focus. Suddenly, it becomes obvious what does your attention and what's just noise. You begin to filter out distractions before they hijack your energy. You start saying no, not out of guilt, but out of alignment. Because when you're clear on what you're building, you stop entertaining things that don't fit. That kind of decisiveness doesn't come from talent or motivation. It comes from clarity. And clarity doesn't just affect what you do, it changes how you feel. Most people carry a constant undercurrent of anxiety. They feel overwhelmed, scattered, stressed, not because they're lazy or incapable, but because they're uncertain. They're standing in a fog, trying to move forward without seeing the path. But when you sit down and define your outcomes for the week, when you map your priorities, when you design your schedule with intention, the fog lifts, stress starts to fade, and a sense of control returns. That's the power of knowing. That's the power of clarity. Now, clarity isn't a one-time event. It's not something you stumble upon accidentally. It's something you create. Weekly planning is your ritual for creating clarity on repeat. It's your check-in with your values, your vision, your mission. Without it, life will pull you in 100 directions. The world is full of other people's agendas. Your inbox, your calendar invites, your social media feed. If you're not clear about your own direction, someone else will define it for you. Think about elite performers in any field, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, leaders. They don't just show up and wing it. They operate with precision. They know what they're aiming for every single week. They live with that kind of clarity because they've trained themselves to value direction over distraction. That level of success isn't born out of chance. It's born out of consistent clarity. When you plan your week, you're not just organizing time, you're organizing purpose. You're taking a chaotic world and putting structure around what truly matters. And when you know what matters, you begin to protect it. You guard your mornings. You respect your priorities. You become fiercely intentional with your time and energy. You stop drifting through your days and start attacking them with focus. There's a confidence that comes from clarity. When you walk into Monday knowing exactly what the outcome is by Friday, you move differently. Your decisions sharpen, your communication improves. You stop hesitating, you stop second-guessing yourself. That's not arrogance. That's the quiet confidence of someone who has already done the thinking, already done the planning, already decided what success looks like for the week ahead. Clarity also allows you to measure your life. When your week is planned, your progress becomes visible. You can look back and ask, did I hit my outcomes? Did I stay aligned with my values? Did I invest my time where it mattered most? Without a plan, you're left guessing. But with clarity, you get real data, real insight, real growth. And let's be clear, clarity isn't about perfection. You're going to adjust. Life throws curveballs. But when you've taken time to plan, to define what matters, those curveballs don't knock you off course. They just make you more agile, because even when the path changes, the purpose doesn't. That's the kind of resilience that comes from deep clarity. It's not rigid, it's adaptive, but it never loses sight of the destination. Most people get the idea of freedom completely backward. They think freedom means doing whatever they want, whenever they want. No rules, structure. Just waking up and going with the flow, hoping the day turns out okay. That's not freedom. That's chaos in disguise. It might feel good in the short term, but over time, it leads to anxiety, missed opportunities, and unfulfilled potential. Real freedom is not the absence of structure. Real freedom is the result of control. Control over your time, control over your decisions, control over your life. And that control begins with one powerful habit: planning your week. When you plan your week, you're not restricting yourself. You're empowering yourself. You're telling the world, I run this, not the other way around. You're no longer just react to life's demands. You're creating your direction. That's control. That's ownership. And that kind of ownership creates space for true freedom. The kind that allows you to live on your terms, pursue what matters, and build a life that reflects your deepest values. Every minute of your time is a vote for the kind of life you're creating. When you don't plan, your time gets hijacked. Your schedule becomes filled with other people's priorities. You become a servant to the urgent instead of a leader of the important. And the worst part is, you might not even notice it happening. It starts small. An unplanned day here, a few scattered priorities there. But over time, your life becomes shaped by randomness, control vanishes, and with it, your freedom disappears. But the moment you begin planning your week with purpose, everything shifts. You start by identifying what really matters, your top priorities, your meaningful outcomes, your non-negotiables. Then you structure your time to reflect those choices. Now, instead of hoping there's for what matters, you've made time for it. That's control. And that control allows you to move through life with purpose instead of pressure. People often say, I don't like planning because it feels too rigid, but that's just another lie comfort tells you to keep you small. Planning isn't about rigidity. It's about intentionality. It doesn't lock you in, it frees you up. Because when your most important priorities are scheduled, when your days are built around your values, you don't have to scramble. You don't have to apologize for being unavailable. You don't have to say yes to things that steal your energy. You've already made the decision in advance, and now your life supports that decision. That's not restrictive. That's powerful. Control equals freedom because it eliminates the fear of the unknown. When you know what your week looks like, you stop waking up with anxiety. You stop dreading your inbox. You stop wondering if you're forgetting something important. You've already designed the path. You're not guessing. You're executing, and that creates mental space. Space to think, to innovate, to connect. The mind can't function at its best when it's in survival mode. But when you're in control of your schedule, your energy, and your outcomes, your mind finally gets room to breathe. Let's talk about energy because it's not just about time. Planning your week allows you to protect and direct your energy. You can align your most important work with the times of day when you're strongest. You can build in recovery time. You can avoid overbooking, overcommitting, and overwhelming yourself. And when your energy is protected, your performance skyrockets. You think more clearly, you move more decisively, you show up more powerfully in every area of your life. Control also builds consistency. And consistency is where momentum is born. When you have control over your week, you don't have to rely on bursts of motivation. You don't have to wait for inspiration. You have a system. You have a rhythm. And that rhythm carries you forward even on the hard days, even when life throws challenges your way, even when everything around you feels uncertain. That consistency becomes a source of internal freedom from procrastination, from confusion, from wasted days. Another powerful element of control is the ability to create boundaries. When your week is planned, you can clearly define when you're working, when you're resting, and when you're connecting. That boundary setting is a form of self-respect. It tells the world and yourself that your time matters, that your goals matter, that your life has direction. Without those boundaries, everything blurs together. Work bleeds into rest. Distractions invade focus, and the feeling of freedom gets replaced by the weight of burnout. Control also gives you the ability to pivot with purpose. Life is unpredictable. Things will come up. But when your week is planned, you can adjust with intention. You're not scrambling or spiraling. You're recalibrating. You're staying in the driver's seat no matter what. You have a screwed up life, and that's real freedom, not the illusion of choice, but the ability to adapt without losing direction. Momentum is the invisible force behind every extraordinary achievement. It's not talent. You have your luck. It's not genius. Those things might give someone a head start, but they don't sustain long-term results. Momentum does. It's the compound effect of consistent, intentional action. Life, it's the quiet power that turns discipline into domination. And the fastest way to generate momentum in your life is by planning your week with clarity and commitment. Because momentum isn't random. It's built, and it's built on structure. People love to talk about motivation. They wait for it, chase it, try to manufacture it. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It's emotional. It's based on how you feel. Momentum doesn't care how you feel. Momentum is mechanical. Once it starts moving, it builds on itself. One win leads to the next. One disciplined day stacks onto the next. And soon, you're moving so fast and so focused that nothing can slow you down. That's what happens when you take your week seriously. When you sit down at the start of every week and make a plan, you're not just organizing time, you're fueling momentum. Momentum begins with small, consistent wins. That's why planning your week is critical. It allows you to see where the wins are. It creates a blueprint for progress. You don't just wake up and hope something good happens. You wake up knowing exactly what your targets are. And when you start your Monday with a clear plan, and you hit that first target, you've already created motion. That single point of motion leads to another. You begin stacking actions, stacking achievements, stacking confidence. Winners are not people who never fall off track. They're the ones who keep showing up because they've built habits around momentum. They've built systems to stay aligned. They don't need to get fired up every morning because their plan is already in place. Their week is structured. Their outcomes are set. They're not wandering. They're attacking. That's not personality. That's preparation. That's what weekly planning does. It builds a system that supports your goals and forces you to show up even when you don't feel like it. Momentum thrives on rhythm. And rhythm comes from repetition. You can't create rhythm in chaos. You can't build flow if your life is disorganized and reactive. But when your week is planned, when your priorities are mapped out, when your schedule is aligned with your goals, you create a rhythm. And that rhythm begins to carry you. It becomes easier to stay on track because you've eliminated the friction of indecision. You're not asking yourself what to do. You're doing it. You're not wasting time switching gears. You're locked in. Planning your week also helps you protect your momentum because momentum is fragile at first. It's like a fire. You've got to guard it, feed it, keep it alive. And the fastest way to kill momentum is to let your week control you instead of the other way around. One missed day turns into two. One vague schedule turns into scattered effort. And before you know it, the energy is gone. But when your week is planned, you don't have to start from scratch every day. You just keep moving forward. Even when things go sideways, you've got a framework to return to. That framework keeps the fire burning. Momentum doesn't just affect performance. It affects identity. The more consistently you take action, the more you start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, and identity drives behavior. When you see yourself as a focused, disciplined, driven individual, you make decisions that reflect that. You reinforce your own momentum. But identity doesn't get built in your head. It gets built in your calendar, in the choices you make each week, in the way you prioritize, schedule, and execute. There's also a psychological shift that happens when momentum kicks in. You start to crave progress. You become addicted to forward movement. Things that used to feel like effort begin to feel automatic. Tasks you used to resist now feel like part of your flow. That transformation only happens when you've committed the process long enough to push past resistance. And weekly planning is what allows you to get there because it keeps you locked into that process. It removes the guesswork. It creates continuity. It helps you show up at a high level over and over again. When you don't plan your week, every day feels like starting over. Every morning is a new puzzle to solve. That kind of inconsistency destroys momentum. It kills progress. It erodes confidence. You might still get things done, but it will always feel like you're dragging yourself through the mud. But when you operate with a plan, when you know your outcomes, when your time is aligned with your purpose, you move like a machine, efficient, consistent, relentless. That's momentum in action. Momentum makes hard things easier, not because the challenges change, but because you change, you become sharper, quicker, more resilient. That's what makes momentum the secret weapon of high achievers. It creates a sense of inevitability, like success isn't something you're hoping for. It's something you're building day by day with every block of time you plan and every commitment you keep. Every day from the moment you wake up, your brain is faced with choices. What to wear, what to eat, what message to reply to first, whether to go to the gym, whether to start with email or dive into deep work. One decision after another, hour after hour, until your mind is worn out. Not from action, but from choosing. That drain has a name: decision fatigue, and it is one of the most invisible and most destructive forces standing between you and peak performance. The most successful people in the world don't have stronger willpower. They simply make fewer decisions by making the right ones early and eliminating the rest. That's why planning your week in advance is not just efficient, it's essential. Decision fatigue is not about laziness, it's biology. The brain, no matter how brilliant or motivated, only has a limited amount of mental energy for making quality decisions each day. Once that reserve is depleted, your ability to think clearly, to resist impulses, to prioritize effectively, and to stay focused all begins to collapse. You start defaulting to what's easy instead of what's effective. You start choosing comfort instead of progress. And the irony is, you might be working just as many hours, but you're accomplishing far less because the sharpness is gone. Planning your week is how you conserve that energy for what matters most. When your week is unplanned, your days become a mental maze. You're constantly evaluating and recalibrating on the fly. You ask yourself over and over again, what should I be doing right now? Should I take this meeting? Do I have time for this task? Is this more important than that? These aren't always hard decisions, but they add up fast. And as your decision-making power gets chipped away, your ability to operate at a high level diminishes with it. By the time you get to your real work, the work that moves your life and goals forward, you're already mentally drained from navigating your own schedule. But when your week is planned in advance, you've already made those decisions. You've already decided what matters most. You've already time-blocked your high priority tasks. You've already said no to what doesn't belong. You wake up and step into a system, a rhythm, a strategy that was built by the best version of you, the focused, intentional, long-term thinker. That version of you isn't caught in the fog of the moment. That version made decisions from clarity, not pressure. And that's the version you want calling the shots. The difference between starting your day with a plan and starting it in reaction mode is night and day. With a plan, you conserve your cognitive energy. You direct your attention where it counts. You don't waste the first hour of your morning figuring out what to do. You get right to doing it. That 1 hour might not seem like much, but over a week, a month, a year, it's the difference between mediocrity and mastery. Because the people who win are not the ones who do more. They're the ones who do what matters more often with less friction and more consistency. Think about how much energy you burn just trying to prioritize on the fly. Every time you switch tasks or ask yourself what's next, you're engaging the decision, making part of your brain. That costs energy. That creates resistance. And that opens the door to distractions. This is where procrastination sneaks in. Not because you're lazy, but because your mind is looking for relief. It's been overworked. It's tired of making choices. And when your brain is tired, it craves easy wins, scrolling, snacking, avoiding. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer choices. You need a plan. Planning your week removes those extra choices in advance. It turns 1,000 tiny decisions into a handful of big ones. What are your top priorities this week? When will you work on them? What are you saying yes to, and what are you eliminating? Once those core decisions are made, your week becomes a series of executions, not evaluations. That shift reduces stress. It sharpens focus. It keeps you out of the mental fog that so many people walk around in every single day without even realizing it. There's a reason why high performers, from CEOs to elite athletes, structure their days with precision. It's not because they're control freaks. It's because they understand the cost of mental clutter. They protect their decision-making power like it's gold. They don't waste time on low-value thinking. They build routines. They automate the basics. They build boundaries around their attention. And they plan their weeks before the chaos of the week begins. because they know that clarity created in advance is more powerful than clarity searched for in the middle of chaos. Even the smallest decisions can have a compound effect on your mental stamina. What time you work out, when you eat, how you schedule meetings, who you choose to respond to, and when. Planning your week helps you systemize these choices so they stop consuming bandwidth. You don't need to deliberate each time. Your plan already has the answer. That consistency creates stability. It creates flow. It creates the conditions for you to show up every day, not just with willpower, but with mental power. If you want to know what your life really looks like, don't look at your goals, your dreams, or your intentions. Look at your calendar. Because time is not just how you get things done. Time is your life. It's the most non-renewable resource you have. Once it's spent, it's gone forever. The way you spend your hours, your days, and your weeks is a direct reflection of the life you are creating moment by moment. And the most dangerous thing you can do with time is treat it like it doesn't matter. If your schedule is out of alignment with your priorities, your life is out of alignment with your purpose. Too many people talk about success like it's some distant mountain they'll climb one day. But success isn't found in some massive future breakthrough. It's found in how you structure your hours today. It's found in what you give your attention to this week, what you prioritize, what you ignore, what you build, and what you tolerate. If you want to change your life, you don't need more inspiration. You need to take a hard, honest look at how you spend your time. That's the most revealing metric you'll ever track. Most people think their problem is a lack of discipline or motivation. But often it's simply a lack of awareness. They've never taken the time to consciously map how their week should look, so their days fill up with urgency instead of importance. They live in response mode. They're always catching up, always scattered, always feeling like there's never enough time. But the truth is, it's not about having enough time. It's about using the time you already have with precision and purpose. That's why planning your week is not optional. It's foundational. It's how you reclaim ownership of your life instead of renting it out to whatever demands scream the loudest. Your time is your vote. Every hour you spend is a statement of what you value. If you say your health matters, but there's no time blocked for movement, your calendar is contradicting your commitment. If you say your family is a priority, but every evening is eaten up by work or distractions, the truth is hiding in plain sight. Planning your week allows you to align your calendar with your values. It gives you a mirror to see whether how you're living is actually supporting the life you say you want. Without that alignment, even your best intentions will collapse under the weight of daily chaos. There is a gap between what most people want and what they do. That gap is where dreams die, not because people aren't capable, but because they never created a bridge from intention to execution. Planning your week is that bridge. It's the system that turns vision into action. When you take the time to lay out your outcomes, block your priorities, and protect the time that matters, you're not just managing tasks. You're building a life that reflects who you are and where you're going. You're refusing to live by default. You're choosing to live by design. People waste years waiting for the perfect time to make a change. They wait for the right season, the right mood, the right conditions. But life doesn't slow down. Distractions don't disappear. And time doesn't pause while you figure things out. The only way to take control is to use what you have this week, these hours, this moment. Because when you wait for the perfect time, you're surrendering your life to the illusion of someday. Planning your week is how you anchor your future in the present. It's how you stop drifting and start directing. Every time you plan your week, you're sending a message to yourself. You're saying, I matter, my goals matter, my future matters. That kind of consistency builds self-trust, and self-trust is everything. It's the foundation of momentum, confidence, and execution. When you keep promises to yourself about how you'll spend your time, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop identifying as someone who's always behind, always scrambling, always overwhelmed. You become someone who moves with intention, who honors their word, who builds structure around what they value most. Your time is not just minutes on a clock. It's the canvas of your legacy. It's the tool you use to write your story, to pursue your mission, to impact the people around you. And if that time is unmanaged, if it's given away without thought or strategy, then your life will be shaped by outside forces instead of internal conviction. The meetings The emails, the calls, the endless stream of requests, none of these are inherently wrong. But without a plan, they will expand to fill every inch of your schedule, crowding out the things that really move your life forward. There's a reason why some people seem to create so much more in the same 24 hours. It's not luck. It's not even talent. It's that they've understood the true value of time and they refuse to waste it on anything that doesn't serve their higher purpose. They don't treat their week like a blank canvas for chaos. They treat it like a blueprint for their best self. And that decision, made every single week with consistency and clarity, compounds into a life most people only dream about. Success doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. And that design begins with how you plan your week. When you create clarity, you create power. When you take control of your time, you unlock real freedom. When you build momentum, you stop waiting and start winning. When you eliminate decision fatigue, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. And when you align your time with your values, you align your life with your vision. Your calendar is not just a tool. It's a mirror of your priorities and a map of your future. You can either drift through your days hoping things work out, or you can rise every week with a plan, a purpose, and a standard. Because the life you want isn't waiting for you someday. It's being built right now, hour by hour, choice by choice, week by week. Plan like it matters, because it does.